List of alleged extraterrestrial beings. Number 7, all of them. Hello. In this video we will tell you about all aliens we know today. Before we begin, do not forget to like and subscribe for more of this kind of videos. From the Exopolitics Hong Kong website. Spanish version. ETAZ listing compiled from many sources. There are just over 10 million worlds in this universe with similar humanities to our own. This is but a few races who are or have been involved with our life wave for some reason. Evaborgs. Cybernetic forms controlled by human entities. Or humans who have been implanted or surgically altered to such an extent that they have become cybernetic in nature, yet still retaining a soul matrix. Jizan. Or Jizan. The Gize people have been referred to by the Plagiarin, Billy Meyer contacts, as well as others. This may have some connection with the strange people and technology allegedly encountered in deep labyrinthine recesses beneath Egypt, who were sometimes reportedly seen by explorers, and who are said to dress like ancient Egyptians. There is allegedly, according to leading-edge research, a huge cavern deep beneath Egypt which is inhabited by people with close ties with the U.S. secret government. Some sources indicate that the Giza people may be a controlled society with the reptilians being the dominant power, although there is still much mystery as to what the Gize Empire is all about. Grails. These are saurian gray-type entities which are apparently somewhat taller than the usually encountered greys, yet with extremely thin rail-like torso and limbs, yet very strong. Greens, the humans of normal size, yet who possess an olive-green skin color. They claim to be from a subterranean or cavernous realms beneath Europe which they refer to as St. Martin's Land. Greys, the small neosaurian hominoids, very prolific and intelligent. May be the brains or intellect of the serpent race, whereas the larger reportoids allegedly act as the physical overlords and thus are of a higher ranking than the greys. The greys are logic-based and operate on base animal survival or predatory instincts, and in most cases are emotionally insensitive to humans, and like other reptilian entities they feed off of human and animal vital fluids by rubbing a liquid protein formula on their bodies, which is then absorbed through the skin. Like typical reptiles which shed their skins, the waste is excreted back through the skin. The greys range from 3.5 to 4.5 feet tall on the average, with skin colors ranging from gray-white to gray-brown to gray-green to gray-blue. Aside from feeding off of human and animal proteins and fluids, they also allegedly feed off the life energy, the vital essence or soul energy of humans, as do other reptilian species. This is why those humans seen working with the greys, implanted and programmed drones, whether willingly or unwillingly, have appeared lifeless and emotionless to the witnesses who observed them. The greys are reportedly extremely deceitful, and although they act on logic, to them it is logical to use extremely complex forms of deception to bring about their goals. They are the most commonly observed alien entities encountered during UFO events. Their basic program is service to self. They are using this planet as a supply depot for biological materials, people and cattle mutilations. They are very telepathic in nature. Our world is not the only world they have tried to conquer. The greys from Zeta Reticuli have the ability to magnify their mental field in order to maintain control over humans. These different species of greys are members of a network which is a type of loose alliance to which all have common purposes and aims. The greys from Rigel, click image right, were the ones that made the secret deal with the US government. They are impregnating human females on a massive scale, and later extracting the fetuses. Most of their biological materials comes from the cattle mutilation. However, it's a known fact that at times they have done human mutilations. These materials have been found on their crashed UFO crafts. There are some books on the market saying that they are our friends, and that we agreed to these abductions. We are here to tell you not to believe it for a second. These beings are very disturbed beings and are here to take over this planet for their own selfish purposes. They look at us in a similar way that the unconscious mass of our society looks at animals. The Zeta Reticulans appear to be divided into two different groups. There is one group that appears to be a little more tolerant towards human beings. The other group is interested in colonization and conquest of planet Earth. The Greys have one base near the Aleutian Islands. The Greys seem to have influence over the Reticulans and the Bellatrax species of Greys. These Greys have no stomach and digest their food by absorption through the skin or under their tongue. They have been cloning themselves instead of the practice of reproduction we use on Earth. Each time they reclone, however, the genetic copy becomes weaker, which is part of their problem. Their attitude towards humans is tolerance towards inferiors. They are technologically superior, however, spiritually and socially backwards. The reptilian race is the other extraterrestrial race that is most negative, destructive, and evil in their intent. These extraterrestrials are human in shape, however, have reptilian-type faces. They also have scales which makes their skin waterproof. They have 3 fingers with an opposing thumb. Their mouth is more like a slit. They average from 6 to 7 feet in height. They are well suited for space travel because they are able to hibernate. They are cold-blooded biologically, so must have a balanced environment to maintain body temperature. The soldier class can bury themselves in the ground and wait long periods of time in order to ambush an enemy. The leader of this species are called the Draco. They have special wings, which are like flaps of skin. There is a second group of their race that does not have wings. The soldier class and scientists of their race don't. In an emergency they can survive on one very large meal every few weeks. These reptilians have been interacting with Earth for a very long time. In their home system they apparently live underground. This reptilian species apparently directs the efforts of the working class, which are only about 4 feet tall. These beings would be considered another one of the subspecies of the Greys. The command progression in this reptilian society are the Draco, who are the winged reptilians, first in command. Secondly, the Draco, who are the non-winged reptilians. Then the Greys. This group, along with the Greys, pose the greatest danger at this time to planet Earth. How to protect oneself? The specific aim of the reptilians and the Greys is to take over planet Earth through covert mind control methods, much like the Illuminati and secret government is trying to do on Earth. These two groups are intimately connected. Most people think of world takeover only in terms of military means such as bombs and guns. They don't need to do this if they can control the people and world leaders through mind control, hypnosis, and brain implants. The key question is, what do we do to stop this? Our government has sold us out because of their greed for power and world domination, and now they can't stop what they have started. The first step is for the people of Earth to reclaim the world's governments. We must force the governments to release all the knowledge they have about extraterrestrials to the world at large. Half the battle is won if the people of the world know what they are dealing with. If people knew what was happening, they would not be so much on automatic pilot. The only way to protect ourselves is through the strength of our consciousness. If a person is attuned to God and the Masters, and owns their personal power, and has self-mastery over their energies, they have nothing to worry about. The world needs to wake up spiritually and psychologically, and stop being victims. It is this victim consciousness that allows them to be abducted and manipulated. If ever you sense them around, just pray, affirm, and visualize protection for yourself. Your connection with God and the Masters will bring you immediate protection. The only true hope for this planet is a mass spiritual awakening which, in truth, is beginning to occur. This spiritual awakening must also lead us into political action to remove the secret government and Illuminati from power. It is these beings that are controlled and manipulated, implanted, and hypnotized by the negative extraterrestrials. Part of our strength is also to think as individuals. The Greys are a group memory complex that has very little ability to think on their own. It is time now to make people aware of what is really going on. Share this information and others like it with your friends. Do more research on your own. If enough people become aware, the 100th monkey effect will begin to occur. It is already happening. The people reading this book are the light bearers for the new age. It will only happen if we do it. The world will change when we change it. This change begins in consciousness, which leads to individual and group action. The secret government, Illuminati, and negative extraterrestrials are more vulnerable now than ever before. Gypsies. Several sources refer to the Gypsies as having some connection with the UFO mystery. Other sources suggest a connection with high-tech subsurface kingdoms such as Agadi, etc. The knowledge which the Gypsies allegedly possess of an ancient war, UFO craft, and so on is supposedly a carefully guarded secret among various Gypsy tribes. Some claim to have traced the Gypsies back to ancient India or surrounding regions. The infamous Philadelphia experiment information source, Carlos Allende, was allegedly part of a Gypsy clan with knowledge of past and present history on alien cultures which have interacted behind the scenes in Terran affairs. HAV Musovs, or Sovians. Prominent in Payhood Indian tradition, the HAV Musovs were allegedly an Egyptian or Grecian-like seafaring race who discovered huge caverns around 3,000 to 5,000 years ago within, and later deep beneath the Panamint Mountains of California. Within these they then established their vast underground cities. When the inland sea, now Death Valley, which connected the ocean in ancient times dried up, they had no way to carry on trade with other parts of the world. As a result of this, according to Payhood Indian tradition, they began to build and fly silvery eagles which became increasingly advanced as time went on. They then evidently established interplanetary and later interstellar travel, exploration, and colonization. This huge facility is now operating as a major Federation base on Earth, and possesses huge chambers with differing environmental, atmospheric, and even gravitational conditions to accommodate the various visiting Federation dignitaries. Hybrid. Hybrids possessing reptilian and human genetic coding yet who possess a human soul matrix. Hyades. The Hyades in the constellation Taurus, like the Pleiades and Vega, are said to have been the destination of yet another group of refugees from the ancient Lyran wars. Hybrids. Since human and reptilian beings are genetically so different in their physical makeup, a natural hybrid between the two is impossible. However, an unnatural genetic alteration, in essence splicing human and reptilian genes, has allegedly been attempted. Even if this were accomplished, the offspring would not be an actual hybrid, half human, half reptilian, but would fall to one side or the other. Since reptilians possess no soul matrix as do humans but instead operate on a collective consciousness level, the hybrid would be human or reptilian depending on whether it was born with or without a soul energy matrix. In most cases one might tell the difference if the entity had round pupils as opposed to black opaque or vertical slit pupilled eyes, or 5-digit fingers as opposed to 3 or 4, or external genitalia as opposed to none. This may not always be the rule, especially when the chameleons are considered. Some of the hybrids without souls are fed with human soul energy in an attempt to engraft an already existing human soul matrix into the hybrid. Iguanoids. Approximately 4 to 5 feet tall, with iguana-like appearance yet hominoid configuration. They have sometimes been seen wearing black, hooded monk robes or cloaks which conceal much of their saurian features, which include tails. These have been reported as being extremely dangerous and hateful towards humans and lesser-ranking reptiloids such as greys, and like all other branches of the serpent race they utilize black witchcraft, sorcery, and other forms of mind control against their enemies. They appear to be a dimension-hopping sorcerer or priest class among the reptiloid species. Eikels or satyrs. Small hairy humanoids with cloven hoofs which inhabit deep caverns beneath South America and elsewhere. They may be members of a fallen pre-Adamic race which possessed angelic, animal, and humanoid characteristics. Now allied with the reptilians. They have been known, according to natives, to kidnap women and children down through the ages, and many stories are told of South American tribes who have battled these creatures with machetes during certain of their forays to the surface in search for women, children, or food. Insiders. Residents, either permanent or temporary, of the various different secret society-connected top-secret government underground installations, bases, or colonies throughout the United States and the world. Some of these groups may possess advanced technology enabling them to travel to various other planetary bodies in the solar system. This group is international in scope and may be tied in with the alternative 2 and 3 scenarios. Janojian. This is allegedly a planet on which human beings live or once lived. They apparently arrived on that planet some thousands of years ago according to certain contacts, and had all along retained dim memories and legends concerning their ancient home world, planet Earth, where their ancestors lived long before their colonization of the planet Janosch. They are said to be like Terrans, although somewhat oriental and slender. A group of refugees is said to have left Janosch centuries ago in a huge carrier vessel of roughly donut-shaped configuration after an asteroid or meteor shower devastated the surface of their planet, causing a chain reaction in their nuclear power grid, loosing deadly radiation into the atmosphere and onto the underground tunnels and cities which they had built beneath Janosch. They apparently remembered the star route back to Earth, and the latest reports stated that they were in a high orbit somewhere near the Earth and are seeking contact with Earth governments to exchange technology for a place to live on, or below, the Earth, in the tradition of the TV series Alien Nation. In light of other revelations and lack of confirmation from other contacts, this might be a staged draconian propaganda operation. On the other hand, the account may be legitimate. Korandian. Humans allegedly living on a colonized planet known as Korender. Perfectly human in proportion yet 4 to 5 feet tall on the average. Gabriel Green described alleged contacts with this group in publications during the late 1950s, early 60s. The accounts published by Gabriel Green were rather fantastic, although perhaps no less so than some other accounts. Robert Renault is one of the main Korandian contacts, and he claims that they have a large underground facility somewhere in Massachusetts. The Korandians claim alliance with the Arcturians and are part of a massive collective alliance of worlds who lean more to non-interventionism than to direct interventionism. Leviathans. Sea saurian sea serpents such as the so-called Loch Ness Monster. Loch Ness has been the site of much occult or paranormal activity including UFO activity, grey sightings, etc. Aleister Crowley, the Satanist Illuminist founder of the OTO or Ordo Templi Orientis, claimed to be in contact with the beast of the Loch. He owned a mansion on the shores of the Loch, and this same mansion later became the residence of the British occultist Jimmy Page, who not only played with the British rock group Led Zeppelin but also owned a large bookstore dealing with witchcraft and the occult. Being aquatic in nature and having lost the use of their limbs via atrophication and mutation, this branch of the serpent race is allegedly used for long-range psychic warfare and occult manipulation of the human race. Lyran. The Lyrans were the original ancestors of our galactic family. Many thousands of years ago their civilization reached a very high technological level, however fell into disagreement and factions within their culture. These factions went to war and destroyed much of their society. Many of these beings from Lyra, click image right, left in their starships to colonize the Pleiades, the Hyades, and the Vega system. Some of these Pleiadians of Lyrian ancestors also came to Earth during the Lemurians and Atlanteans period. The Lyrians now have long evolved past the conflict, or warlike stage of evolution. These other civilizations could be looked at as our galactic cousins. As the original human inhabitants of Lyra, who have a common origin with Terran humanoids, were driven out of that system many thousands of years ago, some of the present-day inhabitants of the Lyra constellation are of reptiloid descent. During the Lyran Wars, which are mentioned in several contactee accounts, a mass exodus of humans reportedly left the system and escaped to the Pleiades, the Hyades, which are 130 light-years from Earth in the Taurus constellation, and to Vega, which is also in Lyra. This region, like our own system, is still a battleground between Saurian Greys and humans. Martians. Inhabitants of the planet Mars, both human and non-human, including the alleged inhabitants of the 2 Martian moons, which many believe to be artificially hollowed asteroids, one of which, Phobos, is said to be under the control of the original Greys, or self-reproducing Greys, which are the hosts for the Grey clones which operate from various space stations that are disguised as planetoids. It is from these carrier ships that the abduction, implantation, programming, mutilation, infiltration and other projects are carried out against planet Earth. It has also been suggested that thousands of years ago the surface of Luna and Mars were much more habitable, that the surfaces of these bodies may have been decimated after passing through the asteroid belt or an asteroid storm, consisting of debris which may have been torn from a planet which apparently existed between Mars and Jupiter at one time, possibly destroyed by a close encounter with another planetary body in the tradition of Velikovsky's theories. It is believed that ancient ruins, possibly thousands of years old, have been seen on both planets and that these attest to such a cataclysm. MIBs. Also referred to as the Men in Black or Horlocks. These are apparently in many cases humans who are controlled by draconian influences, although other MIB have been encountered which do not seem human, but more reptilian or synthetic. The MIB have been encountered often after UFO sightings, usually intimidating witnesses into keeping silent about what they've seen. Many of the witnesses may be abductees with suppressed memories of the event. Their threats appear to be motivated by attempts to utilize terrorism, fear, or intimidation as a psychological weapon against witnesses. This weapon may not only be used to keep the human MIB under control, but by the human MIBs themselves. They are often, though not always, seen in connection with large, black automobiles, some of which have been seen disappearing into mountains, as in the case of one basing area between Hopland and Lakeport, California, canyons or tunnels, or in some cases apparently appear out of or disappear, cloak, into thin air. Most humanoid MIB have probably been implanted by the Draconians and are essentially their slaves. Biosynthetic forms possessed by infernals also seem to play a part in the MIB scenario, as do subterranean and extraterrestrial societies. Sirius, at only 9+ light years away, has been identified as a major extraterrestrial MIB center of activity, with the subterranean counterpart existing in ancient antediluvian Atlantean underground complexes which have been re-established beneath the eastern U.S. seaboard. Moon Eyes, a race of peaceable humans some 7 to 8 feet tall, with pale blue skin and large wraparound eyes which are extremely sensitive to light. They may be the same as the large humans allegedly encountered on the moon by our astronauts, according to John Lear and others, who in turn were silenced and not allowed to tell what they saw. These people may, according to some accounts, be allied to the Nordics and/or Blondes. They claim to be descendants of Noah, who traveled to the Western Hemisphere a few centuries following the deluge and discovered ancient antediluvian cavern systems and ancient technologies which had been abandoned by the antediluvians in deep subterranean recesses. They have been encountered mostly in deep cavern systems beneath the general region of the Ozarks, Arkansas and surrounding regions. Mothman. Largely subterranean, pterodactyloid-like hominoids with bat-like wings. Sometimes described as possessing horns and thus are considered very similar to the traditional depiction of the devil, according to certain individuals who have encountered them. Very intelligent and extremely malignant. Although often referred to as Mothman, this title might be a little misleading. These creatures, which have also been referred to as the Chickers, Pteroids, Birdmen, and Winged Draco, have been encountered near underground systems near Montauk Point, Long Island, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Dulce, New Mexico. Nagas. Also referred to as the Reportoids, Reptiloids, Reptans, Homosaurus, Lizard Men, or the large-nosed greys. They play a significant role in the legends of India and Tibet, where they are considered by some to be demoniacal residents of a subterranean realm. They are described as being around 7 to 8 feet tall and of various colors, grotesque, but most often moldy greenish with scaled crocodilian skin. Allegedly descended from a branch of bipedal sauroids which existed thousands of years ago on Earth, and via mutation and natural selection developed the brain-body coordination necessary to develop a technology. Some species still reportedly retain a visible tail, although much atrophied from their supposedly extinct saurian ancestors. Some abductees claim that the lizard people resemble a humanoid version of a velociraptor. After a reputed battle in ancient times between a pre-Scandinavian race from the Gobi region and a reptiloid race based in Antarctica, the reptilians allegedly lost the battle for domination of the surface world and were driven into underground networks in which they eventually developed aerial and space technology. Orange, These entities largely converge beneath southern Nevada, northern New Mexico and possibly Utah. Some sources refer to a human race with stocky yellow, red, or orange hair, others of a genetically altered, humanoid reptiloid strain or hybrid. They are often described as having a humanoid form yet certain reptilian genetic features. They are also said to possess human-like reproductive organs, and possibly, or not, a human soul matrix, and therefore a divergent branch of the human race, or reptiloid race depending on which type of orange one is referring to. As some accounts suggest, there may also be orange-colored reptilians which possess no soul matrix. Some of the orange allegedly have connections to Bernard's star. Orions. Some claim that negative entities have been associated with some of the stars in the Orion constellation. Other sources claim that the Orion Nebula is a cosmic doorway to infinity or the realm of the Creator, which transcends the time-space-matter universe. Some astronomers claim that a huge, beautifully illuminated multicolored light has emerged from the nebula, click image right, and is on an intercept course with Earth, although at a rather leisurely pace, and at this rate this light or star will reach Earth approximately 3000 AD, give or take 100 years. Could this have something to do with the prophecy in Revelation 21? Since the Draconians are attempting to conquer the heavens, they may have made futile attempts to enter the Eternity Gate and intercept the emerging light. War in heaven between Michael and the dragon? See Revelation ch 12. This may explain the alleged presence of the Draconians in the Orion constellation, although certain human groups have allegedly become curious of the Eternity Gate as well. The Orion Open Cluster itself is the base of a joint reptiloid, gray empire called the Unholy Six, which has been working out of Nemesis in the Sol system. Many of the planetoids that have entered this system and have made observable course alterations are arriving from Nemesis and the Orion Draconian Empire. The Orion civilization was one of the very few that evolved into a state of technological advancement while still being in a state of spiritual conflict. In the Orion conflict there were two groups, the negative side who believed in the concept of serving the self. They believed if they served their self the whole would be served. This translates into seeking domination over others. The more positive spiritual side held the ideal of being of service to others. Does this sound familiar? It is the exact same conflict that occurred in Atlantis between the sons of Belial and the Law of One. It is the exact same conflict that occurs in our present world today. Do you serve self or ego, or do you serve God? This Orion conflict played out for eons of time in a most destructive and disturbing manner. There were three groups that formed. These three groups were the dominators, the victims, the resistance. The dominators were the Orion Empire. The Black League was the resistance to the evil domination of the Empire. Does this sound familiar? The movie, Star Wars, was actually based on this Orion conflict. The Empire attempted to dominate mentally, emotionally, technologically, and even devised ways to control using the psychic arts for an evil purpose. There was apparently a great spiritual avatar that came forward and awakened the Orion people to the law of love and forgiveness. This facilitated the beginning of a mass awakening for the civilization. There are parts of the Orion system that have awakened and parts that are still trying to dominate. One of those still trying to dominate in the Orion system is the Report Alien race. The positive Orions that are visiting the Earth are contributing their advanced mental power for the development of smoothly running systems of organization on Earth. These Orions vibrate and resonate to the color yellow, and beam this frequency to Earth for the purpose of stabilizing the intuitive powers within the human consciousness. The Ashta command serves in a certain sense as heaven's policeman, and there are actually 6 planets in the Orion system, and a group called the Deros, from Orion inner space, that have had to be completely cordoned off, so beware of anything to do with the Orion Nebula. This was it. Did you like this video and do you want more of this kind of videos? Then just like and subscribe.